see everybody. So here we go. So we are here tonight to do the PITC update for you guys. As you know, there's been some changes to this. And so we want to give you the information that you need to be able to train us successfully. So give me 1 second and I will get my screen shared here. There we go. Now I can see my bar. Okay, you would think it even having 3 screens that I would be able to get this to happen, and obviously I'm struggling. So can you see my screen? Can you see PITC a trainer update? Okay, perfect. I'm so excited. It's happening. Okay. It isn't a Monday, but it sure doesn't feel like one. Okay, so Michelle and Dottie are going to be helping with this as well, but we're going to just kind of get started. I will get us started tonight. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Monique Ortiz. I am the statewide professional development behavioral health specialist supervisor. I oversee the behavioral health and professional development systems and CCR&R across the state and all the things that go on with it. So that is my job. That is my role. And joining me tonight is Dottie Roberts, who is the statewide professional development specialist. She's in charge of the online training. And Michelle Kloss, who is the statewide professional development specialist, and she does the curriculum side of things. So Michelle's been on for about a year. And the first thing I tasked her to do was, hey, we're going to take over the start of when I had started the PITC flip to going from face-to-face to online. And we had piloted a couple of modules. And so she graciously took my stuff and said, okay, I'll help fill in the blanks. So you're going to see there's a couple of different ways that we're going to present this tonight, just because I had developed a couple of different ones. And then when she came in, she kind of finished it up. So that's why it's not going to look different, but that's why we're kind of tag team it here tonight. Just because she kind of took it over in the last year or so. So without any further explanation of that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay. So just remember a couple of things to stay muted tonight to reduce feedback, but please, this is very informal. This is for you so that you can get the information you need to be successful in training the content and the updates and all the things. So it's very informal. Use the chat box, do all the things, but try to stay muted for right now so we can reduce that feedback. Unmute to ask any questions or type your questions in the chat box. Like I said, keeping it very informal. And then also for additional assistance, just email our CCNR PD at midsu.org. That comes directly to the statewide team. So we will get those. All 3 of us will get that information, and one of us will get back to you. So. And please note that tonight, because not everybody could join, we are recording this, and also you may want to listen to it again to check back on that. Something that we're going to try with these recordings is to put them in our talent LMS system instead of on our website, or we might even drop them into SharePoint. We're still kind of thinking what would be the best route with that. So we can track kind of who's going in and looking at it. So and needing the extra content. So if they didn't come tonight, they can go in and watch the recording, and then we can see that they completed it. So we're going to maybe try that a little bit differently than what you might have in the past, but you will still get that link emailed out to you in the next week or so, 10 days at the most. Once after this update is over, we're going to probably have a few tweaks to make, and then when we get everything ready to go, we'll get that link to you. So all right. So kind of our agenda for tonight, we're going to talk about the diversity, equity, inclusion updates to the curriculum. Most of you are on the statewide trainer update last week. You already heard a lot about that. I apologize. You're going to hear it one more time because it does impact this series. We're also going to talk about updated modules and lesson structure, how to access the materials, because we're doing it a little differently now, trainer expectations, coaching for professional development credit and what that means for this series, your professional development record, and makeup sessions, and any next steps. So kind of a lot to get you tonight. I do know we have 3 hours on the agenda for tonight. just depending on how many questions we have, will depend how long we go, as we kind of go through the material. So just so you're kind of aware of that. So the first thing I'm going to have you do, though, is we're going to talk about accessing the materials. So you're gonna see a couple of different things. We now have a facilitator guide. Instead of an outline, it's actually a facilitator guide. And I'm going to, and I totally forgot to pull off the animations on this. So of course my slideshow is being kind of funky here. So I apologize. Let me give you the link to the facilitator guide so you can pull that up. There it is. Things are happening. Okay, I'm going to also put this in the chat box for you so that you have it. Okay, so this is a facilitator guide, and it's going to look a little different than what you've seen before. Because here we are. Things are happening. Okay, here we go. Here's a link. It's going to look a little different because it's not the outline itself. So you guys are probably used to a full outline with the big binder, with all the talking points, all the things. What we've done is we've moved all of those talking points to the PowerPoint slides, and all of that information is there. And so we've gone to just a direct facilitator guide. And so you'll see in this facilitator guide, on the table of contents, it talks about the introduction of PITC, an overview of the modules, how we can prepare for these modules, module 1 agenda and timeline, module 2 agenda and timeline, 3 and 4 as well. And so what this is just the same information we had before about what is PITC of Iowa. It's coming from the same content we had before. And it just outlines basically the philosophy around PITC. Okay. And then we have an overview of the modules. Now I'm not going to spend too much time on this right at the moment because we're going to go through that more in depth in a little bit. But I just want you to see that they're here. I'm kind of showing you the lesson number, the lesson title, the number of hours, the total of hours, and the CDA content area that it attaches to each one. Like I said, we're going to go through that a little more in depth. Some of the action steps to take when we talk about some of the things to do before your training and during your training. So information to send out before the training. It says I cannot access it because I do not exist. Okay. All righty. Well, we will get you access. So thank you. Some things to do before the training is your welcome email, Zoom link, location for face-to-face only, your dates and times. Okay, well that's probably not a good thing because it is in the SharePoint file. So we will get that figured out here shortly. So I know we've been working on this, trying to get everybody access to it. So we will get you access to this file. So other things, so basically it's going to talk you through the materials needed, things that you have prior to the training, the day of the training, and after the training. So you can kind of read that there, kind of some tips and tricks on kind of what you would need to do to have this training be successful, right? So prior to the training, downloading your materials from SharePoint, reviewing the PowerPoint, planning your engagement activities, reviewing the handouts, practicing your technology and gathering needed materials. And then after the training, send the evaluation, doing your trainer self-assessment, those kind of things, kind of as we, but you can kind of read those there. And then we kind of go into each one of the agendas and timelines. So module 1, you can see here, it's getting in tune. Welcome to housekeeping. You know, your content's going to be expectations and icebreaker, and then the time. So you can see F2F means face-to-face, V is virtual. We do have 2 options available now for that. So, and then we have, it just kind of talks through each one of the topics in lesson 1. So introduction to PITC, resentments, resents and gifts, getting in tune and responsive caregiving. And you can kind of see how that's kind of broken out there. Responsive caregiving process, getting to know you, hotspots, and then closing. So that's all what's in lesson 1. And I'm not going to go through each lesson, so you're going to kind of see it here, though. It's all kind of formatted the same. Lesson 2 temperaments goes through, tells you what your topic is, your content, and the time. And like I said, it's still broken out from face-to-face to virtual. Lesson 3, again, overview of what the content topics are. Lesson 4, diverse abilities and needs, so on and so forth. So you're going to see this for each module. So that's module 1. This will be module 2. It's a different color. And I'm going to kind of scroll kind of fast. And then there's module 2, lesson 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And then again, module 3. So basically that's what this outline of this looks like. It's just in different colors, depending on the module. So you see all the way to module 4. Just gives you a guidance on what the content is, but it's not breaking out the talking points because those talking points are going to be in your PowerPoint slides. So we're trying that a little bit different. We're going to want your feedback on that, if that's working or not working. If I know some of you really depend on that outline form to be able to take your notes, that kind of thing. We wanted to try something just a little different, see, because we were getting kind of a mixed feedback originally on who is, if that's actually helpful for people. Some people weren't using it at all. They weren't referring to it. And so we're trying to figure out what is going to be the most useful tool for you as a trainer in this instance. So we're going to, if this doesn't work, we're going to try something different. So we just kind of want to try this format first and kind of see what happens. And because you'll
Monique.
see, yes, Michelle.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Monique, but I just want to add in just to clarify that all of the talking points that were on the outlines are in the notes part of the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So all the talking points and things are still there for you, but people had said that they preferred them in one spot versus having the PowerPoint and then the outline separate. So we put that part together. So it's still all there, just under the PowerPoint in the notes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all there. It's just kind of saving us the time to print and get those to you. So we're going to, like I said, we're going to try this way. And if it doesn't work, we can definitely try something different, but we just kind of want to see, what's working. We'll be getting your feedback. And as SDU asked about the videos, are the videos linked in the PowerPoint? Are they still separate DVDs? And we are not using the DVDs anymore. So no, because we have actually, PITC West Ed has actually updated a lot of their information materials, and they are now linked in a library. And we have actually created our own library with their permission to be able to link those as well. So they are linked, and we do not have to worry about it. Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing worse than having to go worry about the DVD. Do you have a DVD player? Yeah, anymore? No, that's not the case, right? So we no, yeah. They're all linked in the PowerPoints, and we can also download them separately to have them in case you don't have them for, you don't have virtual, internet in the location, if the half chance that is the case too. So, but for sure. So just so you know, the other piece of the talking points that they're in the slide deck, because we had to change the language out for the diversity, equity, inclusion pieces. It was kind of a time piece as well, much easier just to edit them in the slides versus in both, so we could have the information ready for you in a timely manner. But like I said, we can always make adjustments to that. So we're going to continue getting your feedback this year on what's working and what's not working. But just so you know, those talking points do look a little different if there were some culture, language, and diversity, equity, inclusion language in there as well. Okay, and we'll talk more about that in a second if you hadn't received that information yet. So as far as the the SharePoint is concerned, and I know some of you aren't able to access it at the moment, we are going to get you access to this. So if you're not able to, I was kind of hoping you'd be able to see it so that you could walk through the PowerPoints with us tonight. So let's see if we can get this to work.
Monique, can you guys check the link that I put in the chat box?
I did. It works. I could open it and download it.
That one worked? Okay, so perfect.
Okay, so tell me what you need me to share for tonight, because then I can just copy the links and share it that way for tonight, and then we'll figure out the rest of it.
Sounds good. Well, I'm going to try this first. I'm going to try to share this main page and see if people can access it first. Let's see if that works. If it doesn't,
you have to.
It's
You
not
will
gonna let me
have to share it from the actual the file, like from module 1, module 2, module 3,
Oh,
to share it
actual
from
mod, okay.
there for tonight because this is what I just problem solved a little bit ago.
Okay, because it's not gonna let them in the other way. Okay,
We'll have to add them
okay, gotcha.
to give them
Okay,
access.
so I'm going to put the link to module 1 right here in the chat box. Okay, that's module 1. We're not going to be going through all of the slides tonight. I'm only going to be going through the ones that were updated and the contents changed. But I will give you access to all, so at least you have access to them and you can, so if those are not working, please let me know. Okay, here's module 2. And again, we're trying something a little different here. What we're really trying to do is create a hub where all trainers can go and get the information they need, download it in one place. Because it's through Microsoft, there's just a lot of security features that we're trying to still clearly figure out. We're working on it. We're getting there. So we'll just continue to be patient with us. We'll make sure you get the information you need. So, okay. So is everybody able to click on those links and access those links? I could get a thumbs up, an emoji or something to show me, hey, everybody's good. Fantastic. So good. We know that those links then work. So now it's getting you into the main page, which has everything in it. So that's okay. At least those links work and for tonight's purposes. So just to kind of show you kind of how it's set up, as you can see here, it's module 1 and module 2. So if we go to module 1, it's in the lessons, lesson 1, 2, 3, and 4. Lesson 1, you have the handouts and you have the PowerPoints and facilitator guides. And then in the PowerPoints, you're going to have a face-to-face and virtual. And then the face-to-face is the one if you're going to do it in a location, and the virtual. And the only reason there's a difference is because we've edited the virtual to not include videos or any of those activities that you might do in a face-to-face setting. And we've actually put those in the self-study set portion of it because it's being offered as a hybrid. So that's why you're going to want the appropriate PowerPoint based on whether it's a face-to-face or a virtual. Okay. And then the facilitator guide is also in here as well. And so each module is set up this way. And so should be able to get in there. And now you'll notice that some of the modules may not have both the virtual and the folders differently right now. We're still organizing the folder, but we'll have that ready by the end of the week. So don't worry about that. We'll have it ready for you. So you may not see both PowerPoints in there quite yet, but the main PowerPoint is in there that you would want to use for face-to-face, and which is what we are referring to tonight. Okay. So this is where we're going to send you to get all your information. The thing about what we're going to be asking you to do is, as we make edits, is because it's going to happen, we're just going to try to keep these up to date at all the time, right? We want to keep, as we do edits, we're going to take the old one up and we'll put the new one in. So what we're asking is that you would come in and download the presentations before each training that you present, just to make sure that you're getting the most up-to-date copies. The other thing is participants are going to be getting handouts that are digital. It's a regional decision whether or not they print those for your face-to-face series, or if you do them in a digital format. But for statewide online, everything is going to be done in the digital format for the handouts. So they will receive a link to those handouts, and Dottie will send those to you as kind of part of your welcome email. So that when she sends you all your sign-in sheet and everything, she's going to send that link to you as well, so you can share it with your participants. So just so you kind of know what that's looking like. Again, a little different. If you have a participant in your class that is like, I need a printed handout, let us know. We will do them upon request. We're just trying to keep that at a very minimal, just because trying to mail them out statewide is just not it's cost prohibitive, and we just need to keep those costs down. So we're trying to do this in a digital format, but we can, upon request, if it's absolutely, I need a printed copy, we can get them a printed copy. Okay. But we're just trying to keep that down as much as possible.
And
one thing about, go ahead.
Sorry, Monique, sorry to interrupt again.
No, you're
I
fine.
just want to reiterate that as you're looking in there, I'm sure you're realizing things are missing or things aren't quite where they need to be or whatever. Please give me a little bit of grace. My schedule is to have it completed by the August 22nd, to have those organized and have those separate PowerPoints in there for the virtual and the face-to-face. If after that there is still something that you're finding after, the end of next week, please reach out to me and let me know that something is a little wonky, and then I can look at it again at that time. But until the 22nd, please just give me grace on that to get that taken care of.
And thank you, Michelle. And I also want you to know too that a lot of the handouts that you've seen done before have been switched out. So a lot of the handouts are new, and so just keep an eye on that too. You might want to familiarize yourself with some of these newer handouts. Like I said, PITC Westad actually has updated a lot of their stuff, and so we've tried to switch out as many as we possibly can with the old and the new, as for what we could find. So just make sure that you know that, go in here and take some time to look at what's in here, so that you familiarize yourself with the handouts and that stuff as well. Okay. Okay, so that's how you gain access to the content. And I wanted to again give you that for tonight, because we are going to be going through the content. We're not going through every lesson. We're not going through every module. We're going through every module, but not every lesson within each module. That'd take us forever. But we're only going to go through the ones that had the most changes to them, and kind of walk through what those changes were. And then we'll definitely be around for support if you have questions on any of those changes. So, all right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the DEI updates and how that has impacted PITC and the why behind that. So for those of you who have attended some different updates and now the training last week, you've probably heard me already talk about this, but okay, we got to take the time off this thing. But we do, because of federal regulations around the diversity, equity, inclusion, we do have to comply with those directives. So, but I just wanted you to know that, just be aware that we are not experts in this field. I do not even plan on trying to be an expert in this field. We have done our due diligence and received the information we can from Iowa HHS and from the Iowa Department of Health, and they have, and public rights, and we are following their guidance, along with anybody else who's willing to help on what this could look like. So I just want to keep that in mind, that we are, we're definitely not experts on this. And so if you have questions, just make sure you're asking us what that looks like. So so basically, again, I just talked about the why. We receive federal funding through the Child Development Block Grant and Iowa HHS, and it's important that we comply with the political directives and impact the services that we provide. So to do that, we have revised language and scripts related to diversity, equity, and inclusion around culture, bias, inclusive care, equity. And we've also added a disclaimer to our training website pages, included in the self-study units and provided on a handout page. So that disclaimer is, I'll show it to you, so you can see what it looks like. And I try to zoom it in a little bit. It's a little small. But so the disclaimer is that we strive to ensure all training programs and materials align with applicable legislation, while acknowledging that legislation is ever changing. Our focus remains on supporting early childhood education in a way that's respectful, welcoming, and aligned with legal guidelines. And that's really what it comes down to, is we're just trying not to marginalize or call out any groups, and we're trying to just become very welcoming in how we present our trainings. And the reason why it's kind of an issue for us a little bit is because we are federally funded, and we do get federal funds through the Child Development Block Grant that goes through the state. And so because that is the case, all of our core trainings that we offer and develop moving forward, we have to be very cognizant about the language that we're using. And so So that included PITC. And I think PITC is probably the biggest one that was impacted. You will notice that we have switched it up a little bit, but I'm going to tell you here in a second what we've done with PITC. But there's a few things that we can do. There's a few things that we can do to make sure that we are complying, right? So while this can create some challenges, we can create a safe and open environment where everyone feels comfortable. By giving clear guidelines about respect and empathy, we can integrate diverse perspectives into the curriculum by ensuring that they represent a variety of voices, right? Including those from marginalized racial, ethnic, gender, and culture groups. We can facilitate constructive conversations through guided discussions or promote critical thinking and respectful dialogue. So a lot of open-ended conversations. Instead of talking at them, we're really asking their experiences. We can also acknowledge when conversations go awry and take the steps to repair the harm and facilitate reconciliation, right? So when we know we can get into some pretty passionate conversations with our providers. So really, how do you bring that in and make sure everybody is heard, but also, you know, knowing that we have to move forward with the training. So what does that look like? Definitely reach out to us if you have any questions. If you come up with something like that and you need some additional assistance, we'll definitely help you through that. We can also provide self-reflective activities for learners to encourage critical thinking. A lot of that can be done through scenarios and reflection activities. So when you're thinking about your engagement activities, really thinking about how are we going to be able to ask them those open-ended questions, have those scenarios available for them to critically think around them and really come up with their own perspectives. A little less of us talking at them and more of them coming up with the ideas on their own. Avoiding terms that do not welcome belonging and fairness and replace them with neutral language. So that's what the bulk of what we've been doing within our core series. So any language that, including culturally appropriate, cultural bias, implicit bias, unconscious bias, context of culture, racism, racial inequity, right? Routines that are inherently cultural, right? So culture is in all of them. We've had to get kind of creative and what that looks like, but we also don't want to lose the meaning, right? So, so you're going to see, and you'll probably notice one of the topics for sure, we had an inclusion activity in module 1 and had to go back and change that to an acceptance activity. So just stuff like that. We just have to really make sure that we're not using the terminology. And then avoid bringing attention to specific groups through content or charts. For example, feeding routine comparisons of specific groups. So don't be comparing one group to another and how their food and feeding routines differ or are alike. Try to avoid that. Try to avoid talking about how high levels of expulsions are due to behaviors because of race. So if one race is because of their race, we don't want to call that out. And we also want to make sure that for any images that we're using, that we're not highlighting one group or another in a negative context. So if you have a picture of two children, maybe they're engaged in, you know, maybe one's biting the other or something like that, don't be using those, right? Because we want to make sure that they're not in a negative context, regardless of race, sex, or anything else. So, and then include multiple means of engagement expression to meet varied abilities and learning styles. So really going back to those adult learning principles, really making sure that we're really acknowledging how an adult learns and what their learning styles are and pulling those out and really facilitating the conversation. You may find yourself doing less of just more discussion and more large and group activities and less of, you know, lecture kind of type. While those lectures are obviously, they're needed, right? But then how do we kind of flip our script a little bit to make sure they're being engaged? So just some things to think about. That is a lot. We will be sending that out with the recording. We do have a handout with this, so you can take a closer look at it. But just wanted you to kind of know that's kind of what we're talking about when it's around the diversity, equity, inclusion, and really what we as a training organization have committed to moving forward. So, and I don't anticipate that changing anytime soon. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the updated module lesson structure. And the reason why I wanted to kind of talk about how the diversity, equity, inclusion language has changed, has impacted PITC, because I believe other than ChildNet, PITC was the biggest one that was impacted. So a couple of things here. Sorry, going backwards. We have now reduced, we're still offering 40 hours of PITC, 10 per module, but we have now reduced for 4 lessons instead of 5. Okay. Really what we did is we took what was currently, what was module 4, we have pretty much eliminated except for one module or one lesson within module 4, and we have taken module 1 through 3 and spread it out for the rest of the hours. In doing that, we actually ended up with 10 hours for 4 lessons instead of 5. And so we're now, instead of 2 hours a piece, it's now 2.5 hours. But what that's going to do is allow you extra time for engagement activities and really encouraging that networking and large group discussions. Some of the feedback that we received when we piloted the online one for sure is that when you do the virtual session, you kind of tend to run, it runs really fast and you tend to run out of time and don't really have a lot of time for networking and large group discussions. And so hopefully by adding that extra half an hour in, it's kind of going to kind of give them the option to do that. So, and I am so sorry. Animations on a slide is not a good thing. So we should have known to take it off before we presented today. I apologize. So there's 2 delivery formats, face-to-face, 2.5 hours, and hybrid virtual and online. Hybrid is the online format. It's 1.5 hours of virtual and 1 hour of self-study. Very similar to, it's very similar to ChildNet, how ChildNet is also that way as well. The makeup sessions that will be available also, but not until October 1st. And the rule behind that is going to be, they are self-study. You can take 1 per module because there are only 4 lessons instead of 5. You know, they should be able to commit to 10 hours of 4 more modules. So we are only saying that you can only take 1 module to make up. If you make more than that up, if you miss more than that, they should probably be retaking the series at that point. So, but more to come on this makeup sessions. So, so module 1, so we'll kind of get into the content here. So module 1 is social emotional growth and socialization. So you can see here on the right, and I'm sorry, give me 2 seconds. I apologize. I've got to take that transition off or it's going to drive me bonkers. Give me 2 seconds. I am so sorry.
And while she's working on that, I'm going to put a couple links in the chat that have the document that she's sharing on these PowerPoints, just showing the restructure and how the lessons have moved or not moved from the old version to the new.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, is this so you're going to be able to see what has changed and what hasn't changed, and understand and kind of follow along. And since you have access to your PowerPoints as well, I'm going to, you can also click into the PowerPoint slides as well. So let me turn these off real quick and turn this timer off. Okay, hopefully now that won't be a problem anymore. My goodness. Okay, let's try this one more time. So.
And Heather, to answer your question, yes, they can make up 1 lesson per module.
Good question. Good clarification. Yes, I know that can be confusing.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
1 lesson per module. Okay. All right. So module 1. You can see on the left-hand side there, we have 4 lessons. We have the prior module number, we have the prior lesson title, and that timer did not come off of that. Look at that. Anyway, we're going to keep moving. And then lesson 2, you can see the new lesson title and the number of hours. So your prior lesson 1, the prior one is module 1, social emotional growth and socialization, right? That did not change for lesson 1 through 3. It did, however, change for lesson 4. We've actually taken lesson 4 is now module 3, learning and development, right? So we've taken that, we've moved that up from lesson 3. The prior lesson title is lesson 1, Getting in Tune, lesson 2, Temperaments, lesson 3, Social Emotional Milestones, and lesson 4, Understanding Children's Behavior. So that was the prior lesson title. The new lesson is, as you can see there, lesson 1, getting in tune, lesson 2, temperaments, lesson 3, social emotional milestones, responsive caregiving, and lesson 4 did change to diverse abilities and needs. And so instead of doing understanding children's behavior, we are now going to do diverse abilities and needs. And because that is one of the gaps that we have found that was needed for this training. And so I'm going to kind of show you what those look like. So the agendas for we're just going to go over lesson 1 through our lesson 4, because that is the only one that changed. Everything is lesson 1, 2, and 3. The content did not change at all. It's the same that you've always been used to. There may be a few more slides now. We've kind of beefed up the slides a little bit, but the content is exactly the same. So when you talk about getting in tune, it's what you're used to training, right? Temperaments, same thing. And those social emotional milestones, same thing. The content is like I said, there might be a few slides added, but the content didn't change at all. So we're just going to talk a little bit about lesson 4 on those diverse abilities and needs, because that one did change quite a bit. So these are agendas. So when you go to your slide deck, you're going to see 3 different agendas. And the face-to-face, you're going to see that the virtual and self-study agendas are hidden. So when you present, they need to stay on that deck. But when you present, it's not going to present them because they're hidden from view. So, but you will see that. And so for the face-to-face, it is 2.5 hours. And so you can see that, and that's the slide deck we're going to be looking at tonight. You can see that we talk about identity and belonging, attitudes and acceptance, universal design, developmental monitoring, partnering with families, and then some resources. So that is your face-to-face. And if you're an online trainer, you're going to also see that we keep the same exact topics, that we've broken them out depending on activity. So if there is an activity where it's heavy in videos, that's going in your self-study. In the virtual, we won't be doing videos in virtual. We just don't have time for that. Because some of those videos are long and you need to have that discussion afterwards. We really want to have to give them the opportunity to really dig deeper into those. So we've taken the videos out. We've also taken any of those, some of those activities out as well. So any activity that you might spend time in small group or large group in a classroom, we have also moved those, the majority of those to the self-study. You might have a few, so you still might do virtual, but the majority have also been moved to self-study. Because you can see there for the virtual, because then you can kind of see kind of how the virtual and the self-study agendas kind of differ a little bit. Whereas the virtual say the welcome, identity and belonging, attitudes, and acceptance. You can also see we may also do that in self-study, but the idea of the virtual is that it's just doing an overview of the content, right? So we're in the face-to-face, you're going to do it all because that's the only place they're going to get it. The virtual is doing an overview of the content, and then they do a deeper dive in the self-study. So you're going to see sometimes they're going to do the same topic. There's other times when you may or may not do the same topic. It just depends on how deep of dive we want them to go into. So just so you know, that's kind of what the agendas are there for, kind of breaking those times out.
Monique, if I can add to that for a second.
Yep.
As you're doing your preparation for a virtual training where it is split, it would be very, very beneficial if you also would look to see what they're doing within talent, what the self-study piece is, so that you know how what you're presenting virtually, how that meshes with what they're doing self-study. So that will take a little prep time on yours, but it's important for you to know how they work together, and then you're able to discuss in the virtual session what they're going to be doing on the self-study. So when you're ready for that, we'll have to give you access into the self-study portions so that you can see those before you're training them.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. Thanks for bringing that up, Michelle, because that is actually something that was highly recommended. And just so you know, don't worry that you would be taking a spot from participants in our LMS system, because we now have unlimited access to as many people as we need to. So you will not be taking anybody's spot or slot or anything like that. So get in there, do what you need to do. Michelle can send you the information to get into the course. So you would just need to connect with her to make sure she gets you the login information to get there. But that's a really great idea. Because it'll really help with your conversation in the virtual to really kind of make those connections and saying, okay, well, we're talking about identity and belonging here. And this, but when you go into your self-study, these are the kind of things you're going to be doing. So you can kind of make those connections that way. And kind of give them some of that prep, like that awareness that, okay, this is what's happening here. So, okay, so I'm going to actually go into the slide deck. It's going to let me here. We are going to, that's not, yeah, of course, see, I link it and it's not coming up. Why would it? Okay, so we're going to SharePoint. We're going to go to lesson 4. So if you want to follow along with the PowerPoint deck, and we're going into module 1, lesson 4, PowerPoint, and I'm going to go into the face-to-face. And just so you know, if you notice here where it's dated, it says 8/13/25. That's how we're going to label our PowerPoints, that when any materials that are updated, we're going to date stamp them, okay? So you'll know when the most current version is. So if you see one that's in there that says, a year from now, and you're like, well, is that really the most current copy? That's going to be kind of your clue to know that this is the most updated version. So because it will be date stamped. So just so you kind of know what that looks like. Okay. So to kind of go through this information a little bit, diverse abilities and needs. So the key concepts are about the appreciation of an individuality and belonging, personal and social societal attitudes, strategies for adapting materials and environments, and developmentally monitoring, and then partnering with families. I'm not going to go through all of it. I'm just going to kind of pull out these the different topics here. So identity and belonging, really talking about what does identity mean and what does belonging mean, and really kind of giving them the context behind that and really letting them think about that and how does that impact them. You'll see in the bottom of the slides, there is some questions, maybe in a different color. Those would be really great discussion points to have with your people, really pulling that out and having those good conversations about really thinking about those concepts, okay? Again, just talking about what this could look like, how they can help build the children's identity and sense of belonging. And then we're going to get into, there was an activity here that I did remove because it was on inclusion. And so, and it just isn't appropriate for now. So that inclusion activity is now gone. It is now called attitudes and acceptance. And so we're going to just have them kind of think about, what does acceptance mean? Think about a time you didn't fit in. Good time to share, right? Share their experiences. And then why is it important, right? And so really having those good, deep, rich conversations with them about that. And then really talking about adaptive care and kind of going through some common myths with children with special needs, right? So, kind of talking through those. And then really talking about people first language, right? So those of you who are ChildNet trainers also know we kind of touch on this a little bit too in the ChildNet. But really talking about the people first language. So just keeping that in the forefront. And then here we're going to go into what universal design is and adapting the environment. So you can watch again, this is a face-to-face. So in the face-to-face, you'll watch a video, but this video will actually be in the virtual and online will actually be in the LMS self-study. So, and then really talking through what is universal design for learning, right? And how can we adapting toys and materials. So we're gonna go through each slide and kind of talk about some different ways to do that through stability, through usefulness of information, meeting therapeutic goals, right? Okay. And then presenting a positive image of people and with diverse needs and abilities, which that needs to be updated. So, and then then kind of that framework of adapting toys. So the questions to ask. You can have some really great conversations here with your participants. You can pull out their own experiences around this and what they do to adapt toys and materials. So just so you can have a really great conversation with them about that and make those connections. And then developmental monitoring, talking about the difference between monitoring and screening. That is a big thing right now. We have to really make sure that we are very clear about what those are. And then we kind of get into meeting typical milestones and what that does or doesn't look, what that does or doesn't look like. So, and then we're talking about, again, the difference between a monitoring tool and a screening tool, and then how we partner with families. So again, so as some of you know, the AEA's sorts of services have been refigured, but one thing that has not is the early access. So early access is still available to all families at no cost. So these are available still. So these resources are really important. And there's also a link here where they can find their local provider and kind of talk about what they need there. So, and then again, another video for guide to early access. Again, if you're taking the face-to-face, present face-to-face, and you would, show this video, but if you're not, it'll actually be in the self-study for them to watch. And then here's some resources as well. And I would take some time with these resources, since we do have a little extra time built into the content, into the time now, walking through some of these and kind of showing them the websites and maybe giving them a little bit of time to pull them up on their phone, or if they bring, and kind of look at them. It's just a really great place to go to kind of make those connections. And in the online, they do have an activity to actually take time to go through each one of these resources. And please be reminded too that this is not a comprehensive list of resources. This is just a few. And so if you want to take time during your face-to-face class to have them go through that, please do that. You can put a QR code up there. You could also put the link up there, have them, if they have them bring out a laptop if they want to, and you can all do that together, however you want to make that work. But it's just a good activity to kind of get them engaged. And there's another slide for resources as well. So, and then we talk about the key terms. And so there's a handout on the key terms on that and kind of going through those different terms there. So that is the changes that are in Module 1, Lesson 4. So just so you're aware with that. Any questions on that?
Monique, we had a good question in the chat asking if it is a scripted trainer format similar to PBIS. And I responded that the talking points are in there, but it is not scripted. It is not intended to be a script. Those are just talking points to help you hit the objectives, and that the objectives are what we need to make sure you're hitting those. And then the talking points are there to guide the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you that have been around for a while, we do not like to use scripts, but like to give you the talking points, and you have the flexibility to adapt it to your audience. Like Michelle said, as long as you're hitting the objective, whatever that conversation looks like, please do, right? You guys are experts in this field. You've gone to West Ed, you've done the things, you have extra resources, a lot of you do this as your daily work. Please use your experiences to build out the content as you need to, and you feel like to make those engagement pieces. Because that's why, we, with you being, West Ed certified as a PITC trainer, you really bring a different core knowledge than maybe some of the other trainers would or wouldn't, because you do have that experience. So please use your experience to kind of build out those conversations. You do not have to stick with the speaker notes, because we're going to trust you with that. So yeah. Any other questions on that? And just to preface too, I want you to let you know that yes, while the content did change from what we currently had done before, this is still content from West Ed PITC, okay? This is all included in their content. So it may or may not look familiar to you, but As you know, there's probably 180 hours of training that they give us, right? And we can pare down however we feel like we need to do that. So just so you know, this is all in those trainer materials that you do receive. So you can refer back to those documents as well, and that guidance as well that they've given you during the training. Okay. So that's lesson 4 of module 1. So now we're going to talk about module 2, group care. When we talk about getting into when families are going to want to avoid the world culture, correct? Yes, yes. And I think that
So-
that's what's one of the challenges is going to be, SC, is we know in our work with childcare providers, we work with families, we work with children, right? And we're talking about getting in tune. We know those conversations are going to occur. We can't stop those conversations, but we can manage them. So if they say the word culture, it's not a big deal. We just don't want it printed on this slide. Okay. So have the conversations you need to have. They are very important conversations. We just have to make sure that we're not crossing, being appropriate with that. So, but yes, if they want to say the word culture, it's okay. It's okay. As long as we don't have it printed on the screen, we're good. But no, very, very good question.
A good word for that, it's family beliefs, family practices, when you're having that discussion around that, because it is important and things, but we don't want to say the culture of the family. So we say family beliefs and family practices and things like that, so that you can still give that good conversation and follow the legislation at the same time.
So, and we're not expecting perfection on this, guys. So just do the best you can with it. We know that it's very challenging, and we know that there are teachers that are struggling with this very thing as well. So we are not expecting. We know we deal with humans. That's part of what we do. So while we're doing the best we can, we just need to make sure that we're cognizant of it and doing our due diligence. So, but yes, very good questions. Okay, so I'm going to kind of let Michelle take over this next one because she kind of built this one out. But I'll go over this first piece first, the module 2 of group care. So you can see that the prior lesson title for this one was routines and curriculums. That did not change for lesson 1. Lesson 2 did not change either. It is still the same, primary care and continuity of care. Lesson 3, environments 1 did not change. However, the module 4, environments 2, while the title did not change, the content did change quite dramatically. So we're going to go over that a little bit of what that could look like. These are the agendas, kind of like I talked before, depending on how you're delivering it, whether it's in the virtual or whether it's the online or whether it's the face-to-face. Those topics are still the same for both, but they're just broken up differently. So you're going to see here, we're going to talk about resentments and gifts, getting in tune, responsive caregiving process, getting to know you, and hotspots. Why do I feel like that is not correct?
Yeah, I'm feeling.
Nope, it's not. Those are the wrong. That is unless
Wrong
that's
slide.
module 1. That's the wrong slide. So we are going to just go into the PowerPoint and we're going to pull it up there and we'll see what those agendas look like. How's that? Boy, and I apologize. This is where we're at. Okay.
And as I worked through module 2, I attempted to find as much updated content from PITC as I could, but unfortunately some of the videos that are really good, especially along the primary care and continuity of care, I could not find updated videos. So they're still the old videos, but they're really good. So unfortunately, not all of the content was able to be updated. It still looked like it was 1970 in those videos, but I did update everything that I could find.
Yes.
And in environments too, a lot of changes were made on that one because it did address a lot of special needs type things. And so that's why there were more changes to this one. So impact of environment on development and responsive interactions, and then just the responsive environment are the kind of the key concepts here. For objectives, we're going to identify the benefits, the effect and benefit of the environment on development, and strategies for those responsive interactions. and different resources for your environments and here's a good DEI rewording, welcoming and appropriate to all infants and toddlers. Instead of saying inclusive, it's welcoming and appropriate. There's our topics.
There's our agenda.
So a welcoming quality environment, the effect on cognitive and physical development, the effect on social and emotional development, the effect on sensory and on safety and security, creativity and imagination, and then on routine and stability, kind of breaking out how the environment affects all those different areas.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, doesn't this piggyback off the first environments one where we kind of introduced these concepts and this is just a deeper dive?
Yes, somewhat, yes.
Okay.
The first one is more general.
Yeah, very general. And then this is a deeper dive. Yep. Okay. All right. So as you can see, those two agendas for virtual and for self-study are just a little bit different. The self-study you must see majority of videos because
Videos.
Yeah.
Mhm.
so that's why it looks so short. Because we only given 60 minutes for that, but it is the majority of videos in that welcoming equality environment. So, okay.
All right. And so at the beginning of the modules, there is a review slide to review the homework from the session before, where they come back and have a discussion around the topic from the last one. So that's what those first ones are. This session starts with a reflection of the space that they're in and how they would reflect on what they feel about the space, their environment right now, and what their families or children would say about the space. The role that the caregiver can play in an environment. I feel like this could be get some really good discussions on this. A lot of providers might feel their hands are kind of tied on the environment. You know, if they're working at a center, they don't get a lot of control, but there are little things that they can do to help with that environment. And, this could give them some ideas of maybe things that they could suggest or try. And of course, home providers have a lot of control over their space, even though their space is a shared space. So that will be the struggle for them on how to effectively use a shared space. Even though they can control it, it still has to be shared.
And you're going to notice that there is center and home information in these slides. And the reason for that is we're trying to hit both audiences. And because we know we're going to, with the statewide online, we're not going to be able to really say you can only be centers, you really can only be home. So just preface that knowing that your groups are going to be blended and that, if it doesn't apply to them, it doesn't apply to them. So just so that they're aware that that's kind of what we're talking about here. So.
Or on the quality family. I think these sections in here would lend themselves very well to some discussions because we know the providers can learn very well from each other. They have great ideas and things. So I think that throughout this whole lesson, being able to open it up to discussion for them as much as possible would be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Dividing space and how to divide spaces. These are examples, and conversation around these. Something that's kind of exciting is I went and took pictures of Iowa places, centers. I did not get any home photos from Iowa, but it is nice. We got a little Iowa touch in our photos. And then we talk about organization. Yeah, the environment, all the different types of the different pieces of the environment and its effect on everything. It kind of goes through a pattern here now. So this is the cognitive and physical, and then the video will be in the self-study, and then the effect of that on development is the slides go in a pattern there. And then we hear from the providers a lot. They want to know, what can I do about that though? That's great, but what can I do? So I tried to incorporate activities that they could do in each of these categories to help work on that part of development and things within their environment to do that. So this is an example for cognitive in infants. And then the next slide would be cognitive in the toddlers. And then that pattern will repeat. So there's the physical and then physical development ideas for infants and then physical development ideas for toddlers. And so on throughout all of those different areas. If I'm remembering right, that pretty much takes it to the end.
Yeah, that's the majority of it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's why the videos are, that's pretty much what you do with the videos is watch that too. So in the self-study, but
Yeah.
okay.
And key terms and connection with the Iowa Early Learning Standards. With all trainings, we want to make sure that we're connecting them back to the Iowa Learning Standards and having the providers keep those in the forefront of their mind. And then CDA content, of course, too. The resources are linked. So when you click on the resources, it's a link to their website. At least they should have been, unless that got removed by the
No,
communication
they'll be
team.
linked, they'll be linked in the slideshow, but because
Yeah.
I'm not doing it as a slideshow, you can't get the links
Oh,
out. But
perfect.
yeah,
Yeah.
they are, you
Yeah.
can tell they're linked. Yep.
And then at the end of each of the lessons in Module 2 is that enrichment activity, which you would review with them at the end of what it is, asks them to do it outside of class, and then that's the first thing you start with for that adult learning strategy of activating prior knowledge. It's how you start the next session is by going over this activity.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. That's lesson 4 in environment in module 2. Any questions,
Mhm.
comments, concerns? Okay. All right. We're gonna go to module 3, learning and development. Okay, so again, in red, you're gonna see what's changed and what hasn't. So module 3 pretty much stayed, pretty much stayed the same. Facilitating infant learning is lesson 1, discoveries of infancy is lesson 2, brain development in infancy is lesson 3, and then language development and communication is lesson 4. We changed it because it did include culture in it, so we just took the culture out of there. It used to be in module 4, but is now in module 3. So which is why the change in the title, because we had to just take out that culture piece. So just so you're aware of why that occurred. And so here's the agendas. I promise I got the right ones this time. Infants are active learners of language, relationships, family, and dual language development. Strategies to enhance language development, infant, mobile, infant, older infant language milestones. So that's your face-to-face, and again, your self-study. Again, you're going to see the self-study, fewer activities because most likely those are videos or activities that we built in. So, which is why it's kind of broken out the way it is. Okay, so now we're going to go to module 3, lesson 4. Again, because that's the only one that really changes. You're going to need the update for. So let me move my screen here. Alrighty. Okay, so in this one, again, language development, the objectives didn't change too much. Like I said, it was more of a, the content is pretty much the same as it was before. It's more just removing that culture piece out of these slides. Again, reflection, always reflection back. And one thing we didn't add in here was the reflection activity from the module before, but we'll get to that. But then reflection, how does recall an early language experience, how does this make you feel? Same kind of thing you're used to. Infants are active learners. Again, this is a face-to-face, so just why the videos are in here. So here's your video on promoting early language and literacy. This was an updated video, and then just talking about key points around language. And then how relationships, families, and language development are impacted. Again, good time to reflect, have some good conversation with your providers. Some key considerations around it. And then talking about what a dual language learner is, what the impact of that and why that's important. Some strategies to support. And then we get into your young mobile and older infant language milestones. So this is where we're going through the motor development, communication, cognition, anticipatory grants, and then kind of walk through each one. So from a young infant, these are your milestones. a mobile infant, again, those are your milestones, and an older infant. So, and then things to be when you're concerned, when to be concerned, when you're not hitting those milestones, to be looking for. And then this is a handout around the milestones of early literacy development as well. And so some strategies on to enhance language development. So just really talking through that. Again, a video on how to enhance it. Being responsive when children initiate communication. And then you go and engage in nonverbal communication, then you have video, and using child-directed language, then you have video. So again, this is another one that's pretty heavy in videos as well. And so just making sure that you're having those conversations as a follow-up to the video. So use watching the video and then having that follow-up conversation. What did you take? What's your takeaway? Having them taking notes during the video, right? Giving them a reason to engage with the content. Maybe you're asking, maybe you've watched the video beforehand and you pulled out maybe a couple of key things. And so maybe you're asking some questions and you're going to give, maybe throw some candy at somebody that gets it right. I don't know, but somehow engage them in that learning experience with those videos, and not just as a listener, but actually engaging in the content and retaining it. So encouraging them to taking notes, because this one is pretty heavy in videos, and so you're really going to keep them moving. And it's just important not just to watch the video and then move on to the next. Watch the video and then have that conversation, right? Have that follow-up conversation. Get them really thinking about how that impacts them in the early child in their environment. So, and how what that looks like. So anyway, supporting bilingual development, attending to individual developmental needs, and then engaging infants with books and stories. And then being playful with language. Again, there's a video. Creating a communication-friendly environment, and then the closing. And again, those are clips. You don't need to use the DVD. They come directly from the library, from the PITC library. So, and we can download those also out of the PowerPoint, so that they're not, you don't need internet connection in order to gain access to them. But I would definitely take some time prepping, especially when you know you have a lesson coming up that has a lot of videos in it. Go in, make sure you have access to it, make sure they're working. Because if they're not, you can let us know and we can get those fixed very quickly. But we can't do that quickly if we don't know about it. You know, if you're half an hour before your training, you're like, oh my God, it's not working. We can't help you fix it. So, so try to be kind of cognizant that you're prepping for that beforehand, and really making sure that those things are working correctly. So then going back again to your key terms, and then pulling into those Iowa Learning Standards and what those supports are. And then the end of that one. So again, very similar to what we had before, but we've just changed up some language. Maybe took out a little bit of the content there. Okay. Any questions on that one? I see a comment in the chat box. Look how the Queen's probably, yeah. Thanks, Esty. Yeah, our communication team does a very nice job. They do a very nice job keeping us looking good. So, all right. So module 4. Oh, good old module 4. This is the one that we've had to rebuild because we had to get rid of the majority of module 4 of the previous module 4 because of the diversity, equity, inclusion, because as you know, it was full of culture. And so instead of basically what we've gotten permission to do is take it, still holding the 40 hours, but eventually we're going to replace that content with something else. It may not be part of the PITC series, but it will be in addition to. It's kind of a supplement. It's probably going to be geared more around those special needs, diverse needs, that kind of thing. But in a way that we can integrate a lot of that information, but just being cognizant of the political world we're in right now. So we will be working on that, so that it probably isn't going to happen this year, but just know that there will be something to replace the content, because that's still good content. We still work with families. We still need to make sure that the providers are learning how to work with families, right? Family engagement is very, very important. We know that. And we know that that is a gap that we currently have in our training. So we are going to be building that out. But for all intents and purposes of what module 4 is now, is we've kind of really gotten back to talking more about behaviors and protective factors. So you're going to see in this lesson, this module, every lesson has a new title. However, it's been pulled from a different module. So we might have pulled, so you can see the prior module number was module 1, lesson 1. We have pulled that into module 4. So instead of culture, families, and providers, we are now going to talk about understanding children's behaviors. Okay. Lesson 2 is going to be guidance and discipline. Lesson 3 is going to be protective urges. And that's the only lesson from the current module 4 or the previous module 4 that has moved to the current one. And then the final lesson is going to be the making it happen with that small group care. So we're going to go through each one of these individually because it is because there are changes to each one of them. But at first I want to get a temperature here. Do we need a 5-minute break or are we good to continue going? How are we feeling? Thumbs up, thumbs down, break, no break? Text me in the chat box. Break. Okay. Yep. I was wondering. So we've been sitting for a bit. So let's take a 10-minute break. Come back at 7:23. We'll see you in a few minutes. What's good for you? Get up and stretch a little bit. And I know we've been sitting a little bit long tonight. So thank you for bearing with us here. Okay, so we're going to jump right into module 4, lesson 1, understanding behaviors. Okay, so this is the content on this did not change from where it was before. It's just a different spot. Okay. So the agendas are introduction to socialization, guidance, and discipline, a developmental approach, influence of behavior, effective discipline, and putting into practice. Okay, so, oops, that did not do what I wanted to. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here's the PowerPoint. And I did put the link to module 4 in the chat box. So if you want to go back to look at that. Okay, so. So again, key concepts, objectives, your agendas, those kind of things. And then talking about defining connections and commonalities. So let them reflect on this quote. explain, pull out that word that really means something to them and have that conversation. What is healthy social emotional development? And then, watching the video and talking that through about what social emotional development from 8 to 18 months is. And then moving on to infants' capacity of relatedness. So signs of healthy social emotional development is that capacity of trust, capacity to relate, capacity to take pleasure in themselves and others, and capacity to feel effective. So really talking through that and what those behaviors could look like within each one of those. So, and then different strategies on how you can support your healthy social emotional development, and then other considerations. And then here you're talking about the impact of expectations. So again, going back through your experiences and how it impacts the view on themselves. They have a scenario they're going to work through. And then we're going to get into the frameworks of behavior. And so here we're really going to talk about those contributors of social emotional development and some different questions to ask. Why is it behavior happening? How can I tell? What should I do? You guys are pretty familiar with the framework and those possible causes of behavior and walking them through each one of these. So really having them walk through these, why is it happening? How can I tell? And what can I do for each one? Really having those good conversations with them and letting them reflect on possible experiences in their program that they've had, that maybe they've seen, and really having some good conversations around each one of these, the developmental stage, the individual differences, and the environment. The child does not know but is ready to learn, and an unmet emotional need. And so there is an activity, the causes of behavior activity, that ties back to each one of these. That is in your handouts folder under activity handouts. So that activity did not change, but then really going into understanding the behavior and really kind of talking through some case scenarios on here too. And those of you who are familiar with PBIS are gonna, if you'll understand there's a direct correlation to PITC as well. So you can take some of that PBIS knowledge and also integrate it in here too. So just really talking about those case scenarios and really talking through those and really having those good conversations as well. So that's kind of the end of the behavior one. But again, tying it back to early learning standards, because that's what we do, letting them know that they can support in those different areas. So there's that one. Okay. Again, pretty similar. You guys are familiar with those. That did not change. That's something you've been trained this whole time. So that did not change. This one also did not change, about guidance and discipline, but here's lesson 2. Pull it up on the screen here. Again, talking about doing a reflection activity on that. Really defining the difference between rules and expectations, and then what examples those could look like. Some examples of what that could look like, right? And then really that developmental approach to stages and guidance, really talking that through from the baby from birth to 8 months to the explorer 6 to 18 months to the individual, and then those different resources to see those in action, right? So again, if you're in a face-to-face and you want to give them some time to, pull these up on their phone and take some time to look at them, feel free to do that. Engage them in these conversations, these resources as much as you can, so that they want to go back and look at these and actually utilize them. So influences of behaviors, contributors, and prevention. So just really going back to understanding that framework of behavior, and then what they can control, policies, and environment, really talking that through. If they have a good policy in place, then you're going to have good outcomes, right? Your environments, just some considerations around that. And then the impact of expectations on some strategies around effective discipline. So So when you have the baby, what is that? What do those strategies look like to the explorer, to the individual, so on and so forth, and the do's of discipline, and then of course not the don'ts. So, and then the don'ts, right? So kind of showing both sides so that they understand, what not to do. And then communication. And then again, some more infant toddler resources. You can see we did put Iowa ECPBS on here. If you're obviously have had some PBIS experience, you could tie it into there, but they also have some great resources there as well around behaviors for infants and toddlers. So, and then the closing, as usual, key terms, early learning standards, and just your same consistency there. So again, that one didn't change much. You guys are pretty well versed in that one. Content stayed the same. It just may look a little different because of the way of the formatting, but other than that, the content didn't change. All right, lesson 3. This is the one on protective urges. So the content, while it stays in module 4, the content did not change. So really talking about defining those protective urges, what parents want from caregivers, working with caregivers' feelings, and those positive, negative feelings activity, right? And then how it's broken up into the self-study. So I want to go into the slide deck. So this is lesson 3. Okay. So again, there's your agendas. And then an important object icebreaker. So everybody's familiar with this one. Where do you put an important object out on the table, and you got to be away from it for a certain amount of time, right? Well, how does that make you feel? There's several variations of that activity. You can switch that up if you need to. If you feel like you want to switch it up a little bit, feel free to do that. But really the point of the activity is that they know what it feels like to be away from something that they got to trust somebody else with that, with something they care about, right? And people are pretty protective of their phones. So that's a really good example way to get that point across. But then really talking about those protective urges around what parents have, and their feelings of protection, right? And really, so they start seeing that different perspective of, you're not just bringing your kid here. It's really hard for them to do that. So, again, the videos, just making sure we're following up in those videos. And face-to-face in the self-study, they're going to get those there. The virtual, you're not going to have that. But then really talking about what parents want from caregivers. They really want that understanding, competency, and honesty, right? And then really to watch that video and pull some of those key points out. And there's 3 videos there. So having some conversation in between each one. Like I said, engage them in that conversation, those discussions afterwards would be very helpful. And then working with caregiver feelings, again, talking and more videos on that as well. So this one is also pretty video heavy. So trying to make that not just moving from one video to the next, but really making it engaging in between and having those good conversations and letting them share maybe commonalities that they might have and do that networking as well. Positive and negative feelings activity. Talking about this 4-step process, exploring the feelings, checking out your own feelings with others, thinking the parent's point of view, and developing an action plan. And again, going through those videos again. So this one is also very video heavy. So the virtual is a little more discussions and talking points as far as around those videos, around the concepts within the videos, but the self-study is really going to be, the majority is going to be videos. So just so you're kind of aware when you're doing the online one, that's kind of what they're going to get. Okay. So that's the protective urges. And on that one, we are going to beef up the slides a little bit. We're going to add a few more slides before it is presented. So I do know some of you have some trainings coming up shortly. We will have that updated by next week. But we did want to add a few more slides just to kind of give you a little bit more beef around it. So just when you get access to the PowerPoints, just double check and make sure you have the most current one. This one is in there for now, but we will update it. And so make sure that you're looking for the most updated version before you train it.
And Monique, if I can jump in,
Yep.
while we added in the half an hour to add in the opportunity for engagements, whether it be interactive activities or whatever you choose to do that on the virtual side there, especially. We did not step out what those activities are.
Good point.
So we wanted to leave that to you guys. You know the providers in your sessions. You know what works for you. So, that's another thing for you to be thinking about ahead of time is what activity could you do around that topic? And we purposely didn't do that because we wanted you to have that control of that, of what feels right to you. What kind of an activity do you want to lead based off discussions with your providers? What would they really buy into and things like that? So, just remember that you have that extra half an hour, but those activities are not outlined necessarily for you. And that is something for you to be thinking about as you look through the slides of, hey, this would be a great place to do a Kahoot or a great place for a breakout room or whatever it might be. And you can have that creative freedom to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Michelle. Because again, we're giving you some freedom, some flexibility, which you may not have in other trainings. So because we do know that you come from, like I said, we send you to get this training and come back with the knowledge to do this. So we know that you have a wealth of experience that you can bring to the table. So let's do what you need to do with that. Okay, so lesson 4. This one is on providing individualized care, understanding uniqueness, a group size, and the benefits of small groups. And so this is that making it happen. Whoops. Yeah, don't need that one. Click on this slide. So we're going to go through this last one real quick. So that you have it. Here we go. Okay, so again, back to that enrichment activity before, and that's something that we do know will be updated as well, is this enrichment activity will be included in the other modules as well. So if you get that as your prompt to make sure that they had an enrichment activity from before, that they're coming back and they're sharing that out, especially in the face-to-face. So we're getting that bridge, that connection between each session. So it's kind of an important piece to make sure they're retaining what they need. Understanding uniqueness, kind of self-reflection on those questions, that handout, the implications and messages that infants receive about their qualities, talking about how infants are unique, acknowledging their differences. And then we get into individualized care, just the key concepts around that, what that looks like during arrival and departure, during feeding, during diapering, toileting, napping, during transitions, during play, right? How are we individualizing that for each child? And then the role of the caregiver. Then we get into the role of the caregiver, right? What does that look like? So what is their attitude? What are their skills and abilities? What do they need to know? Why is it important? And then, we get in that activity of how can they provide that individualized care for each one of those topics that we just went through, the arrival, the diapering, the feeding, the napping, that kind of thing. I believe that there is part of this activity in the virtual. It is broken out between the virtual and the self-study. I believe you do pieces of this in the virtual as well. So I don't think we cut this one out completely in the virtual. I think there's a way that we've made that switch, but there'll be more guidance on that coming if it's not in there already. So infant and toddler group size. So again, a video clip around small groups, the different types of groups, the key concepts of small groups, again, pulling it from what you guys know, the benefits and the importance, and just about those small groups and why it's important, right? And then a closing, and then you talk about your key terms and our early learning standards again, and your CDA content areas, and then more resources. So So are there any questions on any of those slides? I know that kind of went through them very kind of quickly, but again, a lot of it you already kind of know. Just it's more of a reordering than it is really a content thing. So any questions or concerns or suggestions? We'll take a pause right now if you want to throw those in the chat or if you want to unmute. Okay, everybody good? All right, very good. You're an easy group, but you guys know your stuff too, so I didn't think there'd be too many questions. So, all right, so we're going to kind of talk a little bit about trainer expectations now, and we'll kind of go through this kind of quickly. Michelle kind of talked a little bit earlier about that engagement piece, those engagement pieces that we wanted. We're kind of leaving it up to you, right? There's a lot of tools out there to utilize that, not just virtually, but in person. So you can use a Kahoot in a classroom. You can also use Kahoot on a virtual. You can use Mentimeter in a classroom. Whiteboard's a little bit more challenging because you kind of have to have a Zoom account for that. But there's a lot of different engagement strategies that you can use that can be done in both. But really just trying to meet those adult learner needs, right? Explaining the why, promoting that safe learning space, validating their experience, providing solutions, and really involving them in the learning journey. And that's really what we're talking about, facilitating their learning. That's kind of what we feel like your role is really how are we pulling out their experiences so they can learn from each other. So just use your variety of learning tools. Use them as you need to. Be creative. Really try to build out those engagement pieces. Some trainers I know have done a survey of their participants from the beginning and their welcome email, just saying, hey, take this quick survey. I want to kind of get an idea how you learn. And they tell you, it's like, oh yeah, I am a visual learner. I like games. I like discussion. I like audio, whatever the case may be. Sometimes that's very helpful too. So, but kind of as a preparation, we kind of talked through it the whole time tonight, is really just make sure you're downloading that PowerPoint before each session, right? Give yourself time to review it. But go in and make sure you're downloading it too, just to make sure that you have the most current content, because we will continue to make tweaks to it probably for the next few months, just as we're kind of fine tuning everything. We wanted to at least get it out here for you so we can at least have training start. But no, there's going to be a few updates here and there as we're kind of finishing things up. Just give yourself plenty of time to review and note any updates. Then plan those engagement activities, practice your technology. A lot of you have kids that, I don't know about you, but my kids know more about technology than I do sometimes. Sometimes they're a real great sounding board and helping you through that. And then also create a contact list of notable community partners for future reference, including your childcare nurse consultant, your CCR&R representatives, your CACFP, right? Your CCCI, your financial management consultants, if that's appropriate. But have those lists available so that, especially when you're doing more of those statewide trainings with a mixed group, you're not going to know who those individual people are. So having those statewide resources available for them and saying, okay, well, if you're in Region 5, then you go to CCR&R here, and this will tell you where you can go, right? Go through our website. We have a lot of contact lists on there as well, resources on there as well to help kind of with those community partners. So just kind of get those things prepped. And then welcome the participants to the series. So through an email, through your introduction, your expectations of learning. One thing that we've also maybe added is those technology pieces, technology tutorials. If you're going to do like a Mentimeter, even if it's a face-to-face, and you send out that welcome email and say, hey, just an FYI, we're going to use this Mentimeter as part of some of our activities. Here's a little snip of how to use it. That kind of takes the anxiety away a little bit. They can actually look at it before you actually go on a train and can prepare themselves for that. So kind of maybe prepare them to kind of creating that safe space. During the time, allow for ample time for setup, organize your materials, test your technology, obviously during housekeeping items, just make sure you have those things out there. Share key contact information, complete attendance, and provide your next steps. And really important, especially right now with everything that's going on in CCR&R, really connecting them to their consultant or your training specialist or professional development specialist in your region. Make sure they know who those people are, because we have a lot going on as far as training and coaching right now and a lot of opportunities for them. So make sure they're staying connected to us so that they can help maximize what's out there. There's incentives out there. There's a whole lot of things that they can really utilize if they use our services. So really make sure that they're connecting to your to CCR&R specifically. And so one of those things is coaching for professional development credit. So those of you who attended last week's presentation, you did kind of hear me talk about this already. But really what it is a professional development activity that between a provider and outside expert. And the outside expert for CCR&R is a CCR&R consultant or coach, a staff member. And it's between them and the provider. That expert offers support to build skills and knowledge on specific concepts learned during the training series. And they do the implementation through observation, goal setting, action plan, reflective feedback, in which we use the cycle of practice-based coaching in CCR&R. So that's really what we form our coaching around. So you might be familiar with that. There are a lot of coaching models out there. They all kind of use the same framework or with some of those similar steps, just maybe not in that order. Why is this occurring? Because the Health and Human Services, as of July 1st, said, yes, we're going to offer training credit for coaching. So they can utilize half of their homes and centers both can use half of their registration or licensing hours a year to as far as towards their PD for the year. So for instance, a home 12 hours, 6 of it can be used towards coaching. A center up to 6 hours or 5 hours, depending on how they're licensed. The new childcare licensing for centers took place on July 1st. It did not take place. The comms for the homes is not updated yet, but because we were already kind of getting into this world, we want to be equitable and offer it to them. So we are offering ChildNet 3.0 as part of this coaching for right now. PITC will not quite be ready for coaching for credit, but I anticipate next year there will be that opportunity for them. And really what that is just, it's a set of action plans that they're going to be able to pull a topic and be able to get coached on that and receive 3 hours of training credit for. So more to come on that, but just wanting to let you know that PD credit is out there for coaching now. And we're still, it's a very soft rollout right now because we're still trying to get CCR&R staff up to speed and get them trained. We just trained them last week. So we're still trying to get all their pieces in line. So we're not trying to kill everybody at once, but people who are requesting coaching, we are putting them on a wait list. And when we're ready, we just say, okay, you want to be coached on this, we can get you going. So in the next 6 months or so, we'll start taking off a little bit more, but right now we're just trying to get our coaches certified and getting everybody up to speed. So, and just so you know, the coaches are the CCR&R staff members. I do know that those of you who receive emails from West Ed do see that they do have a coaching component that they are doing, and they're saying, hey, can they take this? And we've gotten a few emails from trainers saying, hey, as a West Ed, since I took the training through them, can I be a coach as well? In Iowa, that is not possible at this time, okay? Because our coaching does need to occur through our child care consultant staff, through our coaches. Our trainers are not able to coach at this time. So, so if you do want to have that opportunity, you can definitely take that class through West Ed, but just know you're not going to be able to offer the coaching services through CCR&R. So that's just kind of where that stands. And just stay tuned on what that looks like in the next year or so. We'll send updates around that. Okay, another thing, quick update is your professional development record. So we are now going to iPower training transcripts. We no longer be printing certificates for completion of series. And this also includes you as trainers. So these trainer updates are going into, in like the update that we did the trainer day that we did last week. It goes into iPower. We will put you in there just like a participant, and you can also get your credit tracked through there as well. So that will follow you as well. So it's all going digital. We are not printing certificates at this time anymore. We do have a few on hand in case if somebody absolutely needs one, but are pretty much done with printing certificates. So they do need to go on iPower, and they do need to get their iPower transcripts. So if a participant comes to you and says, hey, where's my certificate? You let them know. CCNR process those within 10 days after the training is done, and you will get it. You can get it through your iPower profile. So there will be some communication going out, more communication on that, but also continuous through our social media page, through our emails, that kind of thing, keeping everybody updated on making sure they're updating their iPower accounts and their profiles and all the things, just to make sure that they're utilizing their accounts as needed as we can, to make sure we're updated, because if we don't have the right email, they're not getting the information. So we want to make sure their iPower accounts are updated as well. So more for your information is just to know that this is out here. You can send them to our training page, our CCNR training page, and you can say, hey, the information is there. But really wanted you just to have the information so that you can share with participants when they're asking, where's my certificate? You have the answer. Send them to us, right? That it is through iPower, and we won't be printing those anymore. So, all right. So what is your next steps? So really stay up to date on course content changes. So you're, as we've mentioned, give us a little bit more time to get everything all the way completed. But you have the time, you have, you make sure you're getting those updates, and make sure you're downloading those PowerPoints. Request assistance from your professional development specialist, your regional person, if you need help with delivery, you're having some challenges. You also want to practice accessing the SharePoint drive for materials. We will get that link fixed and everybody in there so that you have that, you're able to get in there without having to ask permission. Subscribe to the CCNR Professional Development newsletter. You'll see that comes out twice a year. So if you're not getting that, we'll get you the link in a follow-up email of how you can subscribe to that, and then watch for different professional development opportunities throughout the year. So one thing that we really going to try as a PD organization this year is we're really trying to invest more time into our trainers. And so we want to offer professional development opportunities for you as well, through book studies, through boosters, through content boosters, maybe community of practices, those kind of things. So keep an eye on your email for those opportunities moving forward. Really trying to keep the networking going and moving forward for you as well, because you're important as too, to make sure you have the support you need to do what you need to do for us. So, all right, questions. Michelle, did I miss anything? I'm sure you're tired of listening to me. So
I think you did great. I can't think of anything you're missing, but I'm sure
Okay.
there's some questions from the audience.
Let's see. Do they email one or just into iPower? No certificates, use the transcript. Yep. If sending, what is a good time frame to send out the welcome email, and how many days prior? That's a good question. And Michelle, you want to tell the whole group what you said?
Yeah, I suggested about a week before the first time that you're going to meet to send the welcome email. I see there's also a follow-up question about the digital handouts and how far in advance to send that. I like the couple days before each session. I do not recommend sending all of the handouts at once because that's too much, but maybe, the day or 2 days before each session to send the handout with the if it's virtual, also with the link then for them to remember how to get to the session would be perfect.
Yeah.
And Dottie says she thinks everybody should have access to SharePoint now. So if we want to try that and
You wanna
see.
give it a whirl here.
Yeah.
See which one did we? Here, let's try the link that I sent
They
earlier.
should have all received an email that should give them access to it.
Brenda, I love the idea, she said that it's a nice time to remind them about the self-study also. If you're doing a virtual, remind them about the self-study and send them the handouts to make sure that the self-study is completed.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
And just so you know, one thing I guess I didn't say in that is when you do the virtual, the online hybrid, you have to have both completed. You have to have the virtual session and the self-study session to get credit. They will not get partial credit. So that's why we have the makeup sessions as well, so that they can, if they miss the virtual, they can go in and make that up real quick. But it would be, they have to have both components completed to get credit. So. And for those of you who are going to train online, we will have a quick meeting before we do our online series, so that and to go over all that too, so that you don't, so, because there's a little bit more to it than that, and I didn't want to spend the time today going through all of the things for online. So.
Well, shoot, I guess SharePoint is not fixed
Not
yet.
working, buddy.
Dottie's
Well,
on
you
it.
tried.
She'll get it, everybody. She'll get it.
She's gonna get it for
Well,
you.
it may not be tonight, but I will have it figured out by end of day tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah.
Or before you guys train, I will have it figured out. I'll put that
You
out
will
there.
get
Before
access to
you
it.
train, I will have it figured out for you
Mm.
to have access to it.
We love technology. It's a good thing. So appreciate your patience. So we're trying new things, something new. We just need to keep working on it. So, oh, Esther can see it. Yay. Good job. Well, somebody can.
And Heather and Esther, I received an email request that you requested access. So so I'm glad you two got in. I accepted that request.
Okay. Very good. So, all right. Well, that's all we have for tonight. And I appreciate your time. And I know we said till 9 o'clock, but I figured we'd probably run a little bit short. So that's great. Give you an extra hour back to your night. Appreciate your time. It will be recorded. We'll send a follow-up email with some attachments and some and the recording link so you can have it. But in the meantime, just let us know if you have any questions or concerns and or issues. And we look forward to working with you in the next year or so. All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.